Hello, magical people of the internet. I am Jen, and welcome to my vlog, I Never Thought I Would, where we talk about doing things we never thought we would do and the fantastic places that they can lead us to. I have such a wonderful guest today. Her name is Lisa Olson. She's a speaker, she's a podcaster, and of course, she is an author. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, Jen. Thanks for having me here. It's great to meet your face.
So nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I am so excited to talk to you. So you have a very unique story, and I'm sure you've done many things you never thought you would do. So why don't you pick one of them and let us know what it is and where it led you?
Well, though, I want to talk about pranks because that's very exciting. I guess I always knew I would do that. So I will talk about, I never thought I would be on a stage doing improvisation, and I never thought I could do something like that. Now one of my sayings is you should do things that make you want to sweat in the weird places. You should be brave and go out and try the new thing. So for me, it was being told, hey, this comedy troupe has, openings, so you should audition. And of course, I say what everyone says, I don't do improv. Well, it turns out, of course, I don't unless I try. I did try. And fast forward 20 years later, I just wrapped it up. I was running the actual troupe and performing in it for 20 years.
Wow. Okay. So, what was the name of the troupe? What kind of stuff did you do? I want to know all about this because improv terrifies me.
Which
I,
is funny because you do so many things that no one else would ever be able to do or think they could.
yes. And, I'm a performer, I'm an actor, I'm a stand up comedian, filmmaker. I do all of that stuff. But the idea of getting on stage and having to improvise in the moment is
Mm-hmm.
terrifying to me, like working without a script. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me more about this. Maybe some of your courage will rub off on me.
Well, Jen, have you ever had maybe a sibling, or have you ever had a boss? Have you ever had a parent
I've had all of
or
those
a
things.
partner? You have already done improv, my friend. So I can tell you wholeheartedly, you can and you have and you will again, because improv, even driving has an essence of improv. And you, as an actor and a writer, the words weren't given to you, you created those words. And as an actor, you have to decide what your character is. Of course, you're guided, but they want to see what you came up with first so that they can change it or alter it. You're doing it all the time. Your hair is adorable and it's off to the side. How did you come up with that? That's crazy talk. That's craziness. You're so every little thing is improv. And if we stop looking at improv as standing in a spotlight, hey, be funny, then you can get over that. Improvisation is really there when we do it on stage, it's with a partner. And think of whose line is it anyway? And
Mhm.
we
I
reach
love,
out
I
to the
love that show.
audience. Yes. And so when we would do the improv part of our show, because it was sketch comedy that we would write, which is tremendous joy. And we would parody our town, which was La Crosse, Wisconsin. I'm on the other side of the river in Minnesota, but close enough. And so
Mhm.
it was called Heart of La Crosse. And we would also do corporate shows and do the improv. So the audience, give us a place where two people might meet. So the audience just said, the movie theater, and somebody else just said, it's the vet, where you get your dog groomed. And so I'm a cuckoo, and I went, okay, it's going to be the vet inside the movie theater. So that's where I'm at. And Jen is actually coming in because you want to have your animal, and you're going to fill in the blank. You're going to have your animal groomed, and I'm the worker. So I'm going to open the scene and say, welcome to the vet inside the theater. Would you like to have some popcorn while we shave your pet?
Yes, I would love it. My iguana is just getting too hairy and he totally needs some quaffing.
Please quaff my iguana. I'll have some popcorn. You just did a scene with me. You just did improv. Everybody, fake applause here.
Yay!
I did not know what animal you were going to have. And I think Hairy Iguana would be a great rock band name, actually.
Actually sounds a little dirty now that you think
Yes,
about it.
it does. It depends. It depends where your mind is at, which is my
Well,
favorite
now we all
period.
know where mine is.
Well, mine was too. I just didn't verbalize it. I work with men and I have 5 shared sons. Of course, my mind went there. And
That's
that is
awesome.
improv because we're taking ideas and making something out of it. And what's so fun for the audience is they're in on it without being up there. So
Yeah.
they're really confidently yelling, different occupations from their seat, but they don't want to be up there, but they love to be included. Oh, they took my idea. It does feel good. You've got the whole room together, wants you to do well. They want
Mhm.
you to have that movie theater, vet place, groomer do well because that was partly my idea.
Yeah,
Now you
and
got this
also it's more fun.
buy-in.
They don't go to a show to see somebody do poorly. Anytime, it doesn't matter whether it's music or, performing arts, sketch comedy. The audience is always with you,
Yes.
unless you make it that they're not,
True.
which I've seen some people do.
I've seen some stand-up comics. I used to host a lot as well as do a little, and the ones that shut down the room, you can't get it back, which
You
would
can't.
be,
Nope.
"Oh, I thought you guys would get this." Shut. That door just slammed. What are you, a bunch of teachers? These jokes went over great in Illinois.
Yeah,
Slam. You just slammed us. You are supposed to tell us how beautiful our town is, how beautiful our people are, and how wonderful the food is in this establishment. Or
exactly.
don't say anything about it. Just do your stuff.
So, what gave you the courage? What was it inside of you that is like, okay, I don't do sketch comedy, I don't do improv, but I'm gonna.
Yes, I do this thing where I dare myself daily. And
I love
that
it.
is, I invite anyone, dare yourself daily. It could be getting why don't you put on your fancy shoes today to go get the mail? Actually leave the house if you haven't. Or why don't you sign up to jump out of an airplane? And as I say, with a parachute, because that's kind of important, um, do something different, whether it's post on a social media platform you haven't yet, or do a video live. So I dare myself because it feels so good when you can look back and say, huh, I'll never do that again. Or why didn't I do that sooner? Or I'm going to do that for 20 years. So when I tried it, and just like with you right now, you tried it and you actually did improv. You were fabulous and funny with your iguana quaffing. And it sounds so funny now. And once I did that and met the team, it became this circle of trust and people that had my back and I had theirs because again, we want the scene to go well and support each other going forward with the story. So a scene is introducing who it is, you have a conflict, and now you need an out. And that right there is also how we would have conversations in real life. I have a husband, and that's, we don't have to look for a conflict, but am I listening in the conversation? Do I have his back? Does he have my back? Am I listening to hear and not top him? We all had that coworker. Oh man, I just got a paper cut. Oh yeah, well, on lunch break, I broke my leg and I set it myself. Yeah, with branches and duct tape, and I'm good now. Why do people want to do that? Listen to hear and say something that shows you were listening.
That's amazing. So now you are a speaker and
Yes.
you incorporated your comedy into your speaking career. So can you tell me a little bit about how you brought the two of them together? Because you're doing corporate speaking, you're not doing comedy shows when you're speaking. So I just wanted to make that clear. So yeah, how did you kind of integrate the two, and how does it work, and why is it effective? All of that fun stuff.
Well, when I started with the comedy troupe and realized all the back and forth play and what it feels like to get a laugh on a punchline, I started to understand that my story was really important. we all have an important story. Let me preface that by saying, I don't mean just mine is. We all have a story to share. Some
Yes.
people want to put it out there and some people choose to not. There's no judgment. That's great. But when people are brave enough to set it out in the world and you get feedback, there's no going back. That's what happened. I started sharing my story about growing up in a traumatic home and how humor saved my life. And by sharing that and the reasoning behind it, my mother was an alcoholic and she would physically harm us when she was blitzed. I know now she was self-medicating for mental issues, but I have a roller coaster of a story with that. And she actually is in the good days was really pushing me towards performing.
Mhm.
She always was my biggest cheerleader. And so when you decide to try something new like that and you go for it and you realize it's okay and you share your story, that became something I would speak about. Humor saved my life. I have a story about that. Pretending to be somebody else worked really well as a child in an alcoholic home. And back then, we didn't have all the opportunities of people that would step in and help you,
Yeah.
teachers, police, different people in the community and social services. It wasn't as prevalent back in the early 70s, not like it is today. Because it was like, oh, that's the Joneses' house. So we look the other way, which I respect. Yet no one helped us. And so that became my story is how humor helped me because I would escape. I would put on shows. I had sold out shows in my bedroom. And I mean it. There was no room to sit. It was full. And I'd put on shows and I would change my costumes and I would sing and I would be called back for lots of shows. It was all my Barbies, by the way, but they loved me. If they could clap, it would have been so loud in there.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so, so what is this speaking business that you're doing now? So you're taking the comedy, and yes, humor is very effective in helping us cope. So how does that relate in the business world?
What I use now is my creativity from being a performer, a producer, a writer, all of the things with that show, which I am so grateful I had that opportunity. And I take my creative tips and I share them with the business world or an entrepreneur who is trying to decide, do I want to do this business or that business? When I did a meetup with somebody, we really reworked it and just talked it through. And it's very fun. And I love to share tips on my improv world, not teaching you improv, but sharing ideas of how to see things differently, how to feel things differently, how to turn it around and look at it at a different angle and maybe come up with something new. I have lots of tips like that inspires, reignites, gets you unstuck from your project.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's amazing. And it's funny because a lot of people just kind of assume that, artists and creative types use one side of their brain or one part of their brain. And then in the corporate world, there isn't much of that creative part being used, but it's so integral for a company to be successful to have that creative component.
Well, and what I'm told so much now is because no matter what I'm doing, I do infuse humor, whether I'm at my day job working with police officers, whether I am, when it's appropriate, with people who call in, I can easily share joy when it's the right timing. That's important to know. But when you share joy, that next interaction for that person also has joy. So there's this beautiful ripple effect. So almost everything I do has humor in it.
Mhm.
And that's the important connector. We connect through stories. We definitely connect through humor. It takes our attention. It raises our endorphins. It lowers blood pressure. It just calms down the anxiety issues. And we should seek more humor than we do headlines, especially before bed.
Yes, definitely. I've actually shut off the news several months ago. And I would say to my dad, like, I just want to watch good news. Like, call me
Yes.
when there's good news. And he's like, you'll be waiting a long time.
But you have YouTube and you can look up, for me, it's bloopers from the Carol Burnett show or some sort of older comics because it's going to be clean. I'm not a prude, but I prefer clean comedy because I can take it to that edge in my own brain. I
Yeah.
don't need it told. We've all been to a club where they just start with the genital jokes. And then I'm going, where are you going to go from there?
When I started doing comedy, I started doing dirty comedy about dating and things like that because I was insecure about my ability. And within a year of being in the comedy scene and noticing that it was a default for a lot of people, I decided that I didn't want to do those jokes anymore and that I had to become more clever and more intelligent with my comedy. I quickly decided, like, if this is something I'm going to commit to, that I would want to be talking about things that mattered to me with humor, of course, but just a different style. So I really respect that. And yes, I've been watching a lot of the vintage Saturday Night Live.
That's a great example. Yeah, it just feels better to laugh than it does to find jealousy on the internet or anger or fright. So you seek out
Exactly.
the joy. Mm-hmm.
You're also a podcaster. So can you tell us a little bit about your podcast and the topics that you like to discuss?
I would hate to talk about my podcast. Okay. It's called Stranger Connections. And I love to interview the weirdest stories. I want to celebrate the weirdos. I want weird stories, quirky careers, and anything like that. So send them to me. Examples would be one guy who goes everywhere with a 40-pound wooden gnome that he calls Ahab, and his name is Jeej. And they travel around and do adventures. They've jumped out of an airplane, they've climbed mountains, they've just gone out for ice cream. And he's really spreading the word about it's so similar to something I do. And it's approaching strangers and just creating a new story and interacting. And people want selfies with this gnome. It's just so cute. So that's one of them. There's a lady who did handwriting analysis. That's a very popular episode.
Ooh.
Teresa Adams. She's just awesome. The handwriting PI. And everybody wants to know their own things. We all want to know about ourselves. So I sent in a handwriting sample, and then she on the recording, she told me, and oh, she knew stuff. She could tell me what I was worried about. She could talk about my personality, and we had never met. So I just thought it was great. It was a really interesting episode. There's a lady who does Reiki through the computer. There's a lady who can interview your pets and tell you what they're thinking, even through Zoom. And she did it with my rescue dog. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Weirdos. I'm still looking for the lady who walks on fire. I lost her. So if you walk on fire, give me a call. If you need your iguana groomed, call Jen.
Yes, exactly. You have a hairy iguana, call me. We'll start the hairy iguana club. We can get the Instagram page and start posting pictures of our hairy iguana.
Maybe you should, not me on my computer, but you should Google that term and then let me know
No,
what you find.
I'm actually a little afraid. Like, we keep saying it and I'm
I
like,
know.
this is probably like a term of something that we shouldn't be saying.
Some
This might
urban
cause some
thing.
problems. I might get deplatformed over
Or
this.
if you're Did you say lizard porn?
No, I did not. Not
We're
at
gonna get all
all.
these pop-up
And I
ads on our
prefer
phones.
erotica because it's more tasteful.
Yeah, I'm a lady.
I'm a lady.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh my God. You are absolutely so much fun, Lisa. I'm having
Thank
such a
you.
great time chatting with you. And where do we find this podcast? Is it on Apple? And I'm sure everything can be found through your website. So we'll be sharing a link.
No, I haven't updated it. So I'm just too busy making podcast
I can
episodes.
just delete this part.
No, I don't care at all because I don't hide things at all. No, hell no. It's Stranger Connections. I send it through Spreaker, but yes, wherever you look up your favorite podcast, you'll certainly find.
Right. So you also have two books published. One of them is a book, the other one is a journal. So Laughs on Rye is your book. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yes, and thank you so much. I have a book called Laughs on Rye. It's an improviser's memoir, and it's about growing up in the alcoholic home and the traumatic childhood that I had, but it's full of humor. So it's the roller coaster ride that is life, anyone's life, how I got through it, how humor saved my life, and that I made choices instead of excuses. And so in there are quick little chapters. And at the end of every one is a lesson. Not that I'm teaching, it's what I learned.
Yes.
And my journal is
What
what
if,
ifs and why
what
nots.
not, what ifs and what not, what, let me try that again. What ifs and why nots?
That's it. And that's a journal of creative cues to help unravel the stuck moments. And I've included a bunch of creativity prompts and room to draw and room to write. So we've got both types of brains. We've got the blank page, we've got the lined page, and anywhere in between. And it's I just a lot of the prompts that I love to teach with and share. And I open it myself when
Amazing.
I'm just like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to write today. And this one is taking direction is a great skill to have.
And I actually love the title because what if? I feel like myself and a lot of us, it's so much easier to talk ourselves out of doing something than talk ourselves into doing something. So the prompt of, well, what if I did it? And why not?
Yes.
Can help, because I know in a lot of ways I'm my worst enemy, because I do talk myself out of things more often than I talk myself into them. So this journal sounds like something everybody needs.
That's so sweet of you. And my book is on Amazon. My journal is not. I did everything local for my journal. It was something I wanted to do in town, support my printer. It's a spiral bound. I was keeping it more low cost. So if you are interested, just Facebook message me and we'll figure it out. And that's the way I've been just sending them through the mail. And it's always fun to get mail.
And I love that you're supporting local. I am a big believer in buying local, supporting local. I understand as self-published authors, we don't have much of a choice in terms of getting our books on Amazon is one of the best ways to get our material out there. It's easy to just kind of shirk the responsibility and say, well, we don't have any control. And it's like, well, yes, we do. We have a choice where we spend our dollars. And that's very important.
That's so rich what you just said. And I just heard an entrepreneur speaking yesterday who said, right before you click place it in my cart when you're shopping online, hover for a second, pause, and ponder. Is this something that I could get similar locally? Is there something instead? Pretend you're getting a gift. Could I instead give them the gift of an experience, like a gift card to a restaurant for when they start opening, things
Mhm.
like that? It was just a really mindful thing. Just take a hover and just pause
Yeah,
before you go and buy online.
yes, exactly. Well, it's been such a treat chatting with you. You're so much fun. It's so unfortunate that this meeting has just been over the interweb, because I would love to meet you, and I wish your improv troupe was still going, because I'd love to see you do some improv. I'm definitely gonna check out your podcast. It sounds fantastic. I love weirdos too, because I am one.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful for you taking the time to chat with me today. And I like to thank everybody in the interweb for tuning in. We will have Lisa's website and her contacts, her books, her podcast, all the info you need will be linked below so you can find her. And we would like to, I always say, I'd like to challenge you to do something you never thought you would do, but Lisa has a better way of saying it. So, in honor of her, we would like to dare you to do something that you never thought you would do. Dare
Yes.
yourself every day, as Lisa says, and let us know what it is and let us know where it leads you. Leave a message in the comments, because I'd love to know, and you can help inspire some people with your courage. So thanks so much for tuning in. Have a lovely day, and don't forget to like and subscribe.